Back in 2011, Angry Birds was everywhere. They had multiple different games, toys, and movies generating hundreds of millions of dollars. But by 2019, they were firing masses of staff. And since then, things have only gotten worse. Perhaps it's just karma for stealing the initial idea. Angry Birds wasn't an original concept. In April 2009, a game was released named Crush the Castle, which required players to fire a trebuchet into wooden structure, hiding many evil people well. 8 months later in December 2009, game developer Rovio made an app named Angry Birds, which while clearly being a ripoff was better in every way. It had cooler, cleaner animated graphics and different stages, each with different levels. You got points for every enemy killed and points for every bird you didn't use, giving players the chance to compete for high scores. Throw in 5 different birds with 5 different abilities, as well as a cool, catchy soundtrack. And it's easy to see that Angry Birds was better. They developed 51 games prior to Angry Birds, none of which saw even the smallest nod of success. Therefore, when Angry Birds took only 2 months to become the #1 paid app in 60 countries, they understandably took the chance to milk it, then make loads of different varieties, like Angry Birds Seasons, Angry Birds Star Wars, helping it to become the #1 paid app in Apple's App Store with 6 to 7 million paid downloads by the end of Angry Birds. First year, they made $10 million US. Players still demanded more. We have so many fans who have asked for the plush toys, so these are going to be available in a couple of weeks. And we're really trying to build Angry Birds into this entertainment franchise. It took only 4 months before that. Announced 60,000 Angry Birds soft toys have been sold, as the game itself become the best-selling paid app of all time within Angry Birds itself that implement microtransactions like Mighty Eagle, which allowed players to pay and clear the entire levels with celebrities like Justin Bieber, even advocating for it. Angry Birds made $100 million in 2011 and went from 28 employees in the beginning of the year to 224 employees by the end of 2011. 5 months later, they set a new world record. First mobile game series to reach 1 billion downloads. They double their revenue, again, by the end of 2012, at which point they started to face a serious problem. The game was getting stale. They have made multiple different Angry Birds versions, but hadn't changed the concept in over 3 years. As a result, in the following year, their profit slowly goes down to half, with Angry Birds falling to 59th in the App Store, forcing the franchise to try a new format. They release Angry Birds Go at the end of 2013, and while this was somewhat of a Mario Kart ripoff, people absolutely loved it.
So, I mean, it's fun. It is good fun. It looks good. It plays well.
Professional reviewers gave it 7.7, while people on Reddit called it their favorite Angry Birds game and perfection. At its finest, therefore, Rovio continued to experiment, releasing an RPG game named Angry Birds Epic, which again received incredible reviews. Reading the latest Angry Birds title is a welcome addition to a franchise which has not seen much change since its inception. Back in 2009, similarly users said it might be the best RPG title I have ever played.
A pretty solid time. I think the approach they went with here really worked and paid off.
The only problem was these games didn't sell merch like the original Slingshot format. Therefore, merchandise sales plummeted, while total 2014 revenue dropped and profits fell 73% to 10 million euros. As a result, media outlets reported Rovio lays off 110 people, representing 14% of the company's workforce. They'd try to fix their decline with yet another experiment, Angry Birds Pop, which was pretty unsuccessful. In a Reddit thread asking, out of all the Angry Birds games, which one do you think is the worst? Pop was mentioned many times over, therefore they'd go back to basics and put out Angry Birds to the official sequel. Although many called it a downgrade from the original, the sequel was filled to the brim with microtransactions, clearly annoying the fanbase who wrote this is a very greedy game that keeps sucking money out of you. If you play well, the game becomes harder and harder until it's impossible, and then you either have to replay each level 10 times or buy gems. The game is just trying to throw you off balance and get under your skin so that you pay more. The official IGN review said the game took significant steps backward for the massively popular series. Angry Birds 2 is missing key parts of what made previous games so universally compelling to gamers, both hardcore and casual, young and old. Still, due to its intense monetization, Angry Birds 2 become their highest earning game. Surprisingly, however, that very same year that announced losses of almost 15 million and would fire a further third of their workforce, this time being over 200 people. This seemed to imply that Angry Birds was dead until they'd make an unexpected comeback. Turns out they'd spent the previous 3 years privately developing the Angry Birds movie at a cost of 73 million, then made a risky bet, but with a star-studded cast and a fun little story. The Angry Birds movie did surprisingly well. It made over $350 million from its $70 million budget and put Angry Birds back into the public spotlight. People began replaying their previously released games while Angry Birds theme parks popped up in different countries. Media outlets reported Rovio Games had its best year ever in 2016. However, the gaming releases that Angry Birds was known for was still declining in quality in his video. I played and ranked every Angry Birds game, so you don't have Jake Miller talks about Angry Birds Action, which happened to be the first game after the movie.
Angry Birds Action was the start of using the new anthropomorphic designs from the movies in their games, which I think most fans agree was the real beginning of the end for the series.
Similarly, in the Reddit thread asking about the worst Angry Birds games, one user implied it was most of them. After the movie release, said games included Angry Birds Fight, aka a Candy Crush ripoff, as well as Angry Birds Match, which was described as extremely bland. However, thankfully for Rovio, their older titles were still extremely popular, with Angry Birds 2's revenue growing 47% in 2018. Despite of being 3 years old, this gave them the budget to make a second movie. However, their $65 million bets didn't pay off so well. This time, Forbes says Angry Birds 2 is worse than the original in nearly every way. Still, the movie made a profit of $82 million, right as the company was making some weird changes. Despite their older games being low maintenance, Rovio decided to completely stop updating them. Then, without explanation, some of the older beloved titles, including the original Angry Birds, were deleted from the App Store when people began to talk about what they'd done. People made complications, stating Angry Birds was dead. There were comments like, "Remember when Rovio actually cared?" Things got so bad that Rovio apologized, stating they only did it as maintaining the highest quality of updates, and live operations isn't possible without older games, in response to the backlash that announced they plan on redeveloping Angry Birds Classic, which was re-released on the App Store in 2022, but at a price of $2 with no in-game purchases. They changed Classic name to Reds First Flight, making it harder to find in the App Store, this promoting players to buy the newer, more profitable games names. This successfully fooled some people who struggled to find it on the App Store. However, others knew exactly what Angry Birds was doing. They got rid of the old ones, so that you would have no other choice than to play the modern Candy Crush-esque games. They despised the games that made the company and so lost its spirit. Rovio basically confirmed this, openly stating they changed the name due to the game's impact on wider games portfolio. They further requested that fans continue to bring that passion to our live Angry Birds Slingshot games, such as Angry Bird 2. However, players weren't too happy. We hope those fans can continue to bring that passion to our other games, which have been designed to be more psychologically manipulative and stuffed with more microtransactions. Fixed it for you. The drama was so severe, it seemingly halted any future game, as Angry Birds Classic is still the most recent title released, way back in 2022. In 2023, Rovio was sold to Seeger, although this has done little to fix their reputation. One recent tweet expressed, "I very much still love Angry Birds," that said, "The current state of its dog shit. My hope for the franchise is at an all-time low right now. I will just continue to enjoy what I love about it, but it is sad to see what it's became, despite everything." Angry Birds isn't finished, as they just announced they are making a third movie. Although with the rest of the franchise in decline, its performance might be interesting.